The courtroom falls silent the moment he enters. The mayor's son, chin lifted, dripping arrogance, surrounded by 10 towering guards who part the room like they own it. Cameras flash. He doesn't just smirk at Judge Judy. He sizes her up, scoffs under his breath, and mutters loud enough for the front row to hear, "This old lady's gonna judge me?" A few people gasp. He kicks his chair back, sprawls out, taps his shoes on the desk as if the courtroom is his living room. He even waves at Judge Judy with 2 fingers, the kind of disrespect that would make most judges explode. But she doesn't. She just raises one eyebrow, because she knows something he doesn't, and in a few minutes, everyone will. Especially when she reveals the one detail that wipes that smirk off his face faster than any gavel ever could. But before we jump in, tell me, where are you watching from? And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. The metal chair screeches across the floor, a sharp sound that slices straight through the murmurs. For a second, the whole courtroom seems to flinch with it. Judge Judy looks up, not fast, not startled, just precise. The mayor's son drops into his seat like he is lowering himself onto a couch at home. He leans back, one arm hanging off the side, ankle resting on his knee, shoe tapping against the wood in a lazy rhythm. The camera catches everything. The half smile, the lazy blink, the bored eyes that scan the room like it is beneath him. He turns that smirk toward Judge Judy again, like he is checking if she is still there. She does not react. She simply studies him the way a surgeon studies an X-ray. Her pen rests in her hand, still, waiting. The wide shot of the courtroom tells a different story. Every seat behind the rail is full. People lean forward, shoulders pressed together, faces lit by the glow of studio lights and curiosity. Some are there for the case, most are there for the name, the mayor's son. The one who can walk into almost any room in the city and never hear the word no. 10 guards stand along the walls, black suits, matching earpieces, arms folded over broad chests. They do not look like regular courthouse security. They stand too close together, too perfectly spaced, like someone placed them there with a ruler. They do not face the crowd. They face inward, toward him. Judge Judy notices that, not with a gasp, not with a comment, just a tiny shift in her gaze, a slow pass from one guard to the next. The camera follows that line, tracing the pattern like a quiet question. At the plaintiff's table, a woman in her 30s clutches a folder against her chest. The edges of the papers inside are bent and worn from being handled too many times. Her shoulders are tense, her eyes fixed on the mayor's son, as if she still cannot quite believe that he is treating this like a game. He looks at her, then at the audience, then back at the bench. That same smirk returns. He shakes his head and lets out a small laugh. "This is ridiculous," he mutters, loud enough for the microphones to catch, but soft enough that he can pretend he did not mean for anyone to hear. A couple of people in the gallery glance at each other. One of the guards shifts his weight from one foot to the other. The plaintiff's fingers tighten on the folder until her knuckles pale. Judge Judy finally speaks. "State your full name for the record." He rolls his eyes. "You know who I am." Her eyebrow lifts just a fraction. The record does not. The son stares back, deciding whether to push or comply. The tension stretches, thin and sharp, across the room. Cameras zoom in on his face, the small twitch at the corner of his mouth, the slight flare of his nostrils. He gives his name, dropping his father's title like a weapon, waiting for it to land. Several people in the audience shift, as if the word itself carries weight. Judge Judy writes it down without reaction. Then she looks up, not at his face, but at the 10 guards behind him. "Tell me," she says calmly, "why does one young man need an army to sit in a courtroom?" The smirk flickers. The half-smirk is still clinging to his mouth when Judge Judy repeats her question, slower this time. Each word placed with surgical care. "Why do you need 10 guards to sit down?" The silence that follows is not quiet. It vibrates, it presses, it waits. He shifts in his chair, the first small sign that her tone registers somewhere beneath the armor of entitlement. He glances at the guards, then back at Judy, and shrugs with forced casualness. "Ask my father," he mutters. "He likes precautions." Judy lets that answer hang like smoke no one wants to inhale. Then she turns her sharp gaze toward the plaintiff. "Ma'am, I want to hear your complaint. Start from the beginning." The plaintiff exhales shakily, steps forward, and unfolds the creased papers in her hands. The camera zooms in on her fingers, trembling, hesitant, but determined. She looks at him, then away, gathering the pieces of a story she has had to retell too many times. "I own a small studio," she begins, voice soft but steadying. "Photography, mostly portraits and local events. He came in with friends, loud, disruptive, knocking things over. I asked them to leave respectfully. The mayor's son yawns, loudly. A few audience members stiffen. Judy's eyes narrow a millimeter. The plaintiff continues. He shoved a light stand. It fell. It shattered a lens that cost more than a month of my rent, and when I asked him to pay for the damage..." Her breath catches. She swallows. The room leans forward. One of his guards stepped toward me, then another. They boxed me in. He laughed and said, "Relax, sweetheart. Dad pays for everything." The mayor's son chuckles again, leaning back. It was a joke. She's exaggerating. Judy's voice slices clean through his dismissal. "You will speak when spoken to." He bristles, but the sound of authority shuts him down faster than he expects. His jaw flexes, irritation flashing across his face like a strike of lightning he cannot control. The plaintiff nods gratefully and continues. "I called the police. They never showed. The report was closed before anyone visited the studio." A wave ripples through the audience. Soft gasps, exchanged glances, growing recognition of what kind of story this is becoming. Judge Judy does not react outwardly, but her pen stops moving. She looks at him again, this time with a level of scrutiny sharp enough to peel back layers. "You felt this complaint was beneath you?" she asks quietly. He shrugs, lifting his chin. "It is beneath me. I mean, look at this." "You think my father has time for—" "Your father is not on trial," Judy interrupts. "You are." His smirk flickers, a tiny nervous misfire that betrays something he did not mean to reveal. Behind him, one guard shifts his stance, subtle. Too subtle for most, not subtle enough for her. Judy leans back slightly, eyes sliding across the synchronized line of black suits again, watching the way they move, not like bodyguards, but like men trained to follow orders, not instincts. Then she turns to the mayor's son. "I have one question," she says, voice firm but quiet. "Why did your father insist on sending 10 guards for a civil complaint he considers insignificant?" The smirk does not just disappear this time. It drops. The question does not just land, it hits, heavy enough that the air itself seems to tense. Even the guards, disciplined and statue still until now, stiffen in unison, like a silent admission someone did not mean to give. The mayor's son blinks. Once. Twice. That easy arrogance he walked in with does not vanish, but it wavers, as if someone tugged at the string holding it up. Judge Judy waits. She's not rushing him, not pushing him. She's letting the truth press on him from the inside. He sits forward, elbows on the desk, smirk trying to reassemble itself. "You're reading too much into it," he says. "My father likes security, that's all." Judy's eyes lower, studying him the way a detective studies a suspect who suddenly cares too much about explaining himself. She flips a page on her pad, then another, the sound crisp enough to echo. "Interesting," she says quietly. Because the plaintiff's statement suggests the guards behaved less like security and more like participants. A ripple sweeps through the audience. One of the guards straightens his tie. Another shifts his stance by half an inch. No more, but enough for a trained observer. Enough for her. The plaintiff steps forward, clutching a manila envelope, edges bent, corners soft, wearing the fatigue of a woman who has carried proof far longer than she wanted to. She clears her throat, voice steadier now than it was when she first spoke. "I brought photos," she says, "not just of the damages, but of how he and his men acted." The mayor's son laughs, louder this time, too loud. "Oh, please, she's obsessed. She probably followed us around with a camera." The plaintiff does not even look at him. She hands the envelope to the clerk with a shaky breath. The clerk brings it to Judy. Judy opens it with the same quiet precision she uses to open every door to truth. A few glossy photos slide out onto the bench. The camera zooms in on Judy's face. Unreadable, calm, but focused. Then it cuts to the mayor's son, who tries not to react, fails. Because on those photos, clear as daylight, is the formation of the guards. A tight, inward-facing triangle with him at the center, not protecting him from the public, but controlling the environment around him. A strategy, a shield, a human wall meant to intimidate. Judy turns the top photo around so the courtroom can see. Gasps scatter through the room like dropped marbles. The plaintiff's studio is captured mid-chaos, toppled equipment, shattered glass, the guards blocking her path while the mayor's son leans against a wall laughing, phone in hand. His pose is casual, too familiar. He swallows hard, throat bobbing visibly. The smirk is gone now, replaced by something tighter, confusion, irritation, fear, all tangled together. Judy speaks, voice low and disappointingly calm. "Mr. Hartwell, this photo contradicts your testimony already." He sits up sharply. "My testimony? I haven't even given—" "You have," Judy interrupts, "in every dismissive word, every laugh, every attempt to minimize this case." The son's mouth opens, but no words come. Then Judy lifts the last photo, one she has not shown the courtroom yet, and her eyes settle on him like a verdict waiting its moment. "You were not supposed to be at this location," she says. "Were you?" His face drains of color. The room holds its breath, and the shift begins. The color is still draining from his face when the courtroom goes unnervingly still, as if everyone feels the ground shift beneath this case. Judge Judy does not raise her voice. She does not lean in. She simply sets the final photo down on the bench with a quiet tap that sounds louder than any gavel strike. "Mr. Hartwell," she says, tone measured, "tell me again why you were at the plaintiff's studio that afternoon." His mouth opens. Nothing comes out. A flicker of panic darts across his features before he smothers it under forced bravado. I already told you, I was with friends. We were just—" "No," Judy cuts in. "You told me you were invited. Yet this photo was taken in a location you had no scheduled appointment, no booking, no record of communication with the business." The plaintiff watches him with a mixture of hurt and resolve, her hands twisting together as though bracing for whatever lie he tries next. He shifts in his chair, glancing toward the guards for backup, but none meet his eye. Not anymore. Their stoic professionalism looks suddenly brittle. Judy flips the photo over, revealing something scribbled on the back, a handwritten timestamp verified by the studio's system. "You claimed you were across town when this incident began," she continues, "yet this timestamp places you at the scene 30 minutes earlier than your statement indicates." A murmur rolls through the audience. The son's jaw tightens so hard his teeth might crack. "That timestamp means nothing," he snaps, fingers tapping rapidly against the desk. "Anyone could have—" "Anyone?" Judy lifts an eyebrow. "Anyone meaning the plaintiff, who has no reason to doctor evidence, or your guards, who seem unusually coordinated for men who, according to you, were only there to hang out while you browsed a small business you did not schedule?" The guards shift again, synchronized, uncomfortable. Their formation wavers for the first time, like a row of dominoes nudged out of pattern. Judy studies that break. "That reaction tells me enough," she murmurs. The mayor's son straightens abruptly, anger flaring hot to cover fear. "This is ridiculous. You're assuming things. You're twisting everything I say." "No," Judy replies. "Your story is twisting itself." She sets the photo down beside her notes and signals to the bailiff. A man from the back, someone no one noticed when he entered, steps forward. He looks nervous but determined, clutching a slim folder. Judy nods for him to speak. I was there," the man says softly. "I was across the street. I saw what happened, and I have proof." The mayor's son snaps his head toward him, shock erupting into his expression like a firecracker. "Who is that? He's lying. I've never seen him before." But the witness doesn't waver. He opens the folder, revealing a series of printed images, clearer, closer, time-stamped with the accuracy of a digital camera that doesn't belong to the plaintiff. The room collectively inhales. Judy gestures for the bailiff to bring the photos forward. She examines them briefly, her expression unreadable, until she lifts one image and lets it drop face up on the bench. The courtroom leans in. The mayor's son does not. He sinks, because the photo shows him stepping out of a black SUV at a time he swore he was nowhere near the location, and worse, it shows his father standing beside him, hand on his shoulder, speaking urgently, not protecting him, directing him. Judy looks directly at the son now, her gaze calm but cutting. Your story was shaky before, she says. This breaks it. He shoves his chair back, breathing fast. This is taken out of context. My father, he was just... Your father knew you were there, Judy says. Her voice softens, which somehow makes it harsher. And from the look of things, he did not intend for you to be seen. The witness steps forward again, voice steady now. I have more, he says. A video. The room erupts in whispers. The son grips the edge of the desk, knuckles white. Judy raises a hand. The entire room falls silent instantly. Her eyes shift to the trembling young man at the defendant's table. She speaks barely above a whisper that slices. You were not supposed to be there, and your father knew it. His last thread of confidence snaps. The silence that follows her last words feels alive, like something coiling around the mayor's son and tightening inch by inch. He is still gripping the edge of the desk, fingers pale, jaw locked in a way that betrays how close he is to cracking. But Judge Judy is not finished. Not even close. She adjusts her glasses, glances down at her notes, then back up at him with a calmness that feels almost merciful until she speaks. Mr. Hartwell, you lied once about why you were there. She taps the photo. Twice about what you did while you were there. Her eyes lift slowly. And now, we are going to address the third lie. He freezes. The audience leans forward in instinctive anticipation, the way people do when they sense a downfall gathering momentum. Even the guards, usually stone-faced, begin to shift their weight in subtle, anxious ways. The mayor's son forces a laugh, brittle, humorless. Lady, you're blowing everything out of proportion. I don't even remember that day. These pictures could be edited. Stop. Judy's voice cuts through him like glass. We are far past pretending you do not remember. The plaintiff steps forward just a hair, her voice quiet but clear. He remembers. He looked right at me when he laughed. I remember that part the most. He whips his head toward her. Don't flatter yourself. I wasn't even talking to you. Judy slams her pen down, not loudly but sharply. Watch your tone. You are in no position to attack the woman you harmed. He glares, chest rising and falling in erratic bursts. The arrogance that carried him into the courtroom is collapsing under its own weight, and he knows it. He feels it. Everyone sees it. Judy lifts a sheet of paper. It is not a photo this time. It is something worse, a printed transcript. This, she says, is a reconstruction of your own statements to your friends that afternoon, captured on a recording from the plaintiff's building next door. The mayor's son blinks hard, too hard, and his lips part in genuine panic. There's no way you have that. Judy doesn't answer with words. She simply reads, watch this, she'll freak out. Dad will pay for it, he always does. A gasp shoots through the audience like a shockwave. The plaintiff covers her mouth. The guards exchange looks. The first open display of discomfort since entering the courtroom. The mayor's son shoots to his feet, palms slammed onto the desk. That's fake! That's taken out of context! You can't just... Sit down. Judy does not raise her voice, but he sits. Fast. Pressure warps his expression. His breathing quickens. His shoulders sink under a weight he has never carried before. Consequence. Judy flips the page. And now, we test the timeline you gave earlier. He shakes his head quickly, almost pleading. No, this is insane. You're twisting my words. Your words, she interrupts, are doing quite a bit of twisting all on their own. She taps the papers again, then folds her hands in front of her. You claimed you arrived with friends at noon, yet the recording puts you at the scene before 11. The witness photograph confirms it, and your father's presence, that is documented as well. Every sentence stacks on top of him like bricks forming a wall with no exit. The guards shift again, one clearing his throat. The plaintiff watches him crumble, breath slow and steady, as if reclaiming pieces of herself with each truth revealed. Judge Judy's voice softens, not kindly, but deliberately. Your story is collapsing, Mr. Hartwell, and if you continue lying to me, I will reduce what little credibility you have left to dust. His eyes dart wildly. His mouth opens, closes, opens again. He reaches for arrogance, finds only air. And then Judy leans forward, voice calm but lethal. You lied once, she says, and now I'm about to prove you lied twice. The color drains from his face. The room leans in, and the pressure finally begins to crush what is left of his confidence. The echo of her last words still hangs in the air when something unusual happens, quiet, subtle, almost invisible. One of the guards blinks. Not a normal blink. A too long, too heavy blink that looks like guilt slipping through a crack. Judge Judy sees it. Of course she does. Her eyes shift from the mayor's son to the line of guards behind him. 10 men, 10 stiff postures, 10 attempts at neutrality, but now one of them is betraying the entire formation with the smallest twitch of conscience. Judy taps her pen once. A pinpoint of sound. The guard who blinked straightens, jaw tightening. "Mr. Hartwell," she says, turning her gaze back to the son, "your story depends on these men being silent. I want to make sure they understand something before we proceed." His head snaps up. "What? They have nothing to do with this." "That," Judy says softly, "is what worries me." She stands, not abruptly, not dramatically, but with the quiet authority of someone who knows the room is already hers. Her eyes lock onto the guards. "All 10 of you were present during the incident. All 10 of you accompanied him today. That means all 10 of you are witnesses." A tension wave moves through the guards like wind brushing tall grass. The mayor's son whips around in his seat. No, they're not speaking. Dad said—" Judy raises a hand. The entire courtroom freezes. Even he stops mid-sentence, as if yanked by an invisible leash. "Do not finish that sentence," she warns. "Your father's name will not shield misconduct in my courtroom." The plaintiff watches with wide eyes, her hands clasped tight, as if afraid the moment might disappear. Judy continues, voice even but sharp. "What your guards say, or refuse to say, may decide whether this case remains simple or becomes something much larger." The mayor's son stares at her like a trapped animal. "You can't threaten them." "I am not threatening them," she replies coolly. "I am offering them the chance to tell the truth before it swallows them." And then she looks directly at the guard who blinked. Not aggressively, not accusingly, just knowingly. "You," she says, "step forward." A ripple of shock cuts across the courtroom. The guard hesitates, a rare crack in a trained facade, then steps out of formation. His boots echo against the floor like someone dropping stones into still water. He stops beside the desk, rigid, but breathing too quickly. Judy studies him. "Did you witness the defendant damage the plaintiff's property?" The guard swallows, glances at the mayor's son, glances at the other guards, then looks down at the floor as though it might offer him a way out. The mayor's son hisses under his breath. "Don't you dare!" Judy hears it. So does everyone else. "Mr. Hartwell," she snaps, "you will not intimidate a witness in my courtroom." The guard flinches, not from Judy, but from the truth of that sentence. He knows she sees everything. Judy softens her tone by a hair. "Sir, you are not on trial today. But if you lie, or if you allow someone to pressure you into lying, that may change." His breath stutters, and then he speaks, barely above a whisper. "We were told to stand close, to block the exits." The courtroom erupts, gasps, murmurs, disbelief. The mayor's son bolts upright. "That's not true. They misunderstood." Judy slams her gavel once. Silence slams harder. "No one misunderstood," she says, her voice a blade. "You used those guards to intimidate a civilian, and now your own men are beginning to tell the truth you worked so hard to bury." The guard who blinked looks torn between fear and relief, as though he has been carrying this weight far longer than today. Judy steps closer, lowering her voice. "Answer me plainly. Who gave the instruction to block the exits?" He closes his eyes. His lips tremble. And then he did. The mayor's son's chair scrapes backward in outrage. "You traitor!" But Judy's voice cuts through the chaos, steady, cold, absolute. "Enough." She turns back to the guard. "Now tell me, do you want to fix this now or collapse under him later?" The guard lifts his eyes, and for the first time today, someone besides Judge Judy holds the power of truth, and the cracks around the mayor's son widen into fractures. If you were that guard, would you finally speak up or stay silent to protect someone abusing power? The guard's confession vibrates through the courtroom like a struck chord that refuses to fade. For a moment, no one moves. No one breathes. Even the cameras seem to steady themselves, as if realizing they are witnessing the moment the tide turns. Judge Judy doesn't smile. She doesn't gloat. She simply exhales, slow, controlled, the way someone does when the truth finally pokes a hole through a long-standing lie. "Thank you," she says to the guard, two simple words that somehow sound like freedom. But the mayor's son hears them as betrayal. He jerks toward the guard, eyes blazing. "You're done. You hear me? You're fired. You'll never work in this city Sit." Judy's voice could freeze fire. He sits, hard. Now the guards, all 10 of them, stand in an uneasy row. The synchronized wall of intimidation broken, unstable, human. One looks at the floor, another shifts his stance. A third glances at the blinking guard like he's waiting for permission to breathe. The formation is no longer formation. It's a line of men realizing they may have been protecting the wrong person for a very long time. Judy scans their faces. "Gentlemen," she says calmly, "this courtroom runs on truth, not intimidation. If any of you wish to clarify what actually occurred that afternoon, now is the time." No one steps forward. Not yet. But the silence is no longer loyal. It is fearful, restless, ready to crack. The mayor's son sensed this. Panic flashes through him like sparks from a frayed wire. He slams his palm on the desk. "Do not listen to her. You work for my father, not—" "You do not decide who people tell the truth to," Judy interrupts, "especially not here." Her tone is enough to shift the room, but it is the guard who blinked, the one already cracking under truth, who turns the shift into a break. He speaks again, louder this time, voice trembling but determined. "We were told to block the exits. That part is true. But it wasn't just that." The audience collectively leans forward. Judy tilts her head, inviting him to continue. "What else?" The guard inhales deeply, shoulders rising with the weight of the memory. "He told us," he says carefully, "to make sure the plaintiff felt small." His words. "Make her feel small so she doesn't argue." Gasps scatter across the gallery like falling dominoes. The plaintiff's hand rises to her mouth, tears prickling at the edges of her eyes, not from fear now, but from validation. The mayor's son lunges halfway up. "That's not what I said. I wasn't. He's lying." Judy raises a single finger. Instant silence. "Mr. Hartwell," she says, "you are unraveling by the minute. Stop talking before you bury yourself further." He collapses into his chair, chest heaving. A boy wearing the costume of power, suddenly without an audience willing to applaud. Judy looks back at the row of guards. "Anyone else care to add something?" A second guard shifts forward, not fully stepping out, but leaning just enough to show movement toward the truth. He clears his throat. "He also told us," the second guard murmurs, "to keep cameras pointed away if things got messy." This time, the room doesn't gasp. It explodes. Judy's eyebrows lift. "So the defendant instructed you to obstruct evidence?" The guard nods, shame heavy in the gesture. "Yes, Your Honor." Judy writes something down, calm, methodical. Then she looks up at the mayor's son, whose face is a canvas of disbelief and horror. "You lied once," she says. "You lied twice." Her pen stops moving. "And your own team is now disproving the rest." The plaintiff watches him. Tears slipping down her cheek. Tears not of fear, but of long-awaited truth. The mayor's son hides his face in his hands. His confidence is not just shaken, it is bleeding out through every new confession. Judge Judy closes her notebook. "Then I believe it is time," she says, "to discuss what happened before the incident, the part your father tried to hide." His head snaps up. "What? What do you mean?" She doesn't answer. Not yet. And the truth, now leaking freely, prepares to flood the room. The room holds its breath as Judge Judy reaches for a sealed cream-colored envelope resting beside her notes, the kind of envelope that looks out of place in a television courtroom. Heavy, unopened, deliberate. The mayor's son tracks the movement with widening eyes. He has recovered a hint of bravado since the guards began cracking. But that thin confidence begins to crumble again the moment Judy lifts the envelope into the light. This is not evidence from the plaintiff, not something she prepared, not something the guards leaked. This came from someone with power, real power. "Mr. Hartwell," Judy says, fingertips brushing the envelope, "this document was sent directly to my chambers before the hearing." He straightens abruptly, face twitching. "My father said he only sent—" She interrupts with a slow blink. "I have not finished speaking." A quiet tension spreads across the room. Even the cameras seem to adjust focus, anticipating something seismic. Judy breaks the seal deliberately, not for theatrics, but with the solemnity of someone who understands the weight of what sits inside. The paper slides free, thick and official. The mayor's son leans forward despite himself, as if hoping the words might rearrange mid-air before she reads them aloud. "This," Judy says, holding the document between two fingers, "is from your father's office." The son's face drains. He whispers, "No," under his breath, not in denial, but in dread. The plaintiff looks at the guards look at each other. The audience leans in as though gravity itself is pulling them closer. Judy continues, "It contains internal communication logs from the mayor's office. They arrived along with the legal documents your father believed would clarify the situation." The son scoffs weakly, voice cracking. "Oh, come on, my father wouldn't send anything damaging." And that is when Judy delivers the first cut. "Your father did not send these to protect you. He sent them because he expected me to do what he could not." The mayor's son freezes completely, a stillness so unnatural it borders on fear. Judy lays the first page flat. "These are timestamps of messages between your father and his chief of staff from the morning of the incident. Here," she slides the page toward the bailiff, "you will find repeated references to containment, visibility risks, and potential public exposure." The audience murmurs, a wave of disbelief rippling like a low tide pulling back from shore. The son swallows, but his throat moves too fast, revealing the panic he cannot hide. "What does that even mean?" he demands, though the tremble in his voice betrays he already knows. Judy lifts her eyes slowly. "It means your father was aware of your behavior before you even set foot in the plaintiff's studio that day." A stunned silence swallows the room. The plaintiff grips the edge of her table, breath shuddering as the truth unravels wider than she ever imagined. The guard who blinked shifts closer to the others, no longer hiding his regret. Judy turns to the next page. "This log notes that you were supposed to be accompanied by 3 guards that day, not 10. The mayor's son lurches. "What? No, he sent all 10 because your father sent 3, Judy says calmly. The other 7 were dispatched after he received a message at 10:47 a.m. stating, and I quote, 'He's out again, containing optics, send full team.'" The courtroom erupts, voices overlap, gasps collide, camera shutters click like static. "Containing optics," she repeats, her voice cutting through the noise, a phrase used by politicians when they are attempting to minimize public fallout. The son sinks into his chair, shoulders collapsing like a building losing structural support. Judy places the logs aside and lifts a smaller document, a single folded page. "And this," she says, "is what your father attached privately. A note intended for the court." His eyes widen. No, he wouldn't." She does not open it yet. She does not need to. The weight of what is coming terrifies him more than the content itself. "Your father made a mistake today," Judy says, her voice quiet but echoing like thunder in slow motion. "He assumed that sending these documents would shield his reputation." She leans back, gaze piercing him with surgical precision. "But in trying to protect his image, he exposed your truth." The son's lips part, but no words come. For the first time since entering the courtroom, he looks less like a man in control and more like a boy whose world has begun to collapse from the inside. Judy places her hand atop the unopened letter. "We will get to this next," she says, "and I assure you, it changes everything." His breath stutters. The entire room leans in, and the mayor's biggest mistake becomes clear. He armed the truth and handed Judge Judy the ammunition. The courtroom feels different now, not louder, not more chaotic, just heavier. Like everyone suddenly realizes they aren't watching a spoiled man get scolded. They're watching a political empire begin to crack. The mayor's son sits frozen, staring at the unopened private letter sitting beneath Judge Judy's palm. It's the kind of stillness that comes from shock so deep the body forgets how to move. His confidence, the swagger he walked in with, the smirk he weaponized, the entitlement he wrapped himself in, has leaked out of him like air escaping a punctured tire. Judge Judy lets the silence stretch. She knows silence isn't empty, it's revealing. And right now, the mayor's son is revealing everything. A tremor starts in his fingers. Not rage this time, something closer to fear. "Your Honor," he finally mutters, voice cracking around the edges, "whatever's in that letter, my father he wouldn't throw me under the bus. You don't know him." Judy tilts her head just slightly. "I know enough." The cameras zoom in. A tight shot on his eyes, bloodshot, darting, searching for an escape that doesn't exist. A wide shot of the guards behind him, stiff, silent, avoiding his gaze like men realizing they protected power, not truth. A slow pan to the plaintiff, watching him with a complicated mix of vindication and disbelief, like she's witnessing karma arrive early to court. Judy lifts the letter but doesn't open it. Not yet. "Mr. Hartwell," she says, "your father sent this because he could not trust you to tell the truth." His breath catches. He shakes his head. No, that's not. He knows what people do to me. He knows I'm targeted because of my last name. He knows, Judy interrupts, that every time you cause harm, he is expected to clean it up. The words land like a slap he never saw coming. His mouth opens, but nothing emerges except a shallow, gasping sound. A murmur ripples through the courtroom. Not the chaotic wave from earlier. This one is quieter, more chilling. It's the sound of people realizing a man raised in the shadow of power may finally be stepping out of it and into accountability. The mayor's son rubs his face with both hands, voice unsteady. "He's trying to scare me. That letter, he probably wrote something dramatic so you'd go easy on him politically. You don't know the games he plays. He always finds a way out." "He is not the one on trial," Judy says sharply. "You are." He winces, visibly, like the words themselves struck him. One of the guards breathes out, a shaky, heavy breath that draws the room's attention. He looks pained, conflicted, as though watching the son come undone is harder than he expected. Maybe because he knows deeper than anyone how long this downfall has been delayed. Judy turns back to the defendant. "You keep insisting your father will rescue you. But your father has already spoken through the documents he submitted, and what he sent me," she taps the letter, "suggests the opposite of rescue." The mayor's son sits completely still now, eyes fixed on the letter like it's ticking. His voice emerges in a weak whisper. "Why would he do this to me?" Judy softens. Just barely. Enough to make the truth land harder. Because he's no longer trying to protect your image. He's trying to protect his conscience. For the first time, tears pool in the young man's eyes, not out of remorse for what he did, but from the dawning realization that the shield he relied on all his life has finally lowered. The plaintiff watches him, and something changes in her expression, not sympathy but recognition. A man who believed himself untouchable is finally touching the ground. Judy sets the unopened letter aside. "Sit up straight," she says firmly. "We are not finished." He obeys. Not out of arrogance, out of fear. Because for the first time since he walked in with 10 guards and a smirk, the mayor's son understands he is alone. Judy places her hand on the sealed letter once more. "There is one more thing your father said," she murmurs, "and when I read it, you will finally understand exactly why he sent you here. If you were Judge Judy right now, would you feel sympathy for him or none at all?" The courtroom is so still, it feels like the air itself is waiting. Judge Judy lifts the sealed letter again. Her fingers tightening around the edges as though she's preparing to cut into something fragile or dangerous. The mayor's son watches with the wide-eyed terror of a man staring down a truth he has spent his entire life avoiding. "Mr. Hartwell," Judy says, her voice lower, steadier than before, "I'm about to read a statement from your father that he intended for my eyes, not yours, not the public's." He swallows hard, shoulders folding inward. I don't think I want to hear it," Judy answers without looking at him. "You don't have a choice." She breaks the seal, a soft tearing sound that slices through the courtroom like a blade, and unfolds the letter one measured crease at a time. The cameras zoom in, but not close enough to capture the words. The audience leans forward, breaths synchronized in anticipation. Judy reads silently at first. Her brow tightens. Her lips form a thin line. Her eyes flick upward to study the mayor's son, not with anger, but with something closer to recognition. When she finally speaks, her voice has changed. It is quieter, heavier. "This," she says, lifting the page slightly, "is difficult, and I imagine it will be difficult for you to hear." He braces himself, gripping the edge of his desk like it might keep him from collapsing. Judy begins. "Your Honor, I send this letter because my son no longer believes consequences apply to him. I fear I've created that. I've shielded him for too long, excused him for too long, and allowed my office to cover behavior that, if done by any other young man, would have resulted in serious penalties." A tremor rolls through the courtroom. The plaintiff's eyes widen. One guard shifts uncomfortably, eyes lowered. The mayor's son sits frozen, as though his father's words are chiseling cracks into armor he thought was impenetrable. Judy continues reading. "This hearing is my attempt to step back and let him face the truth, not to humiliate him, but to save him. Because if he does not learn accountability now, I fear he never will." A soft gasp leaves the plaintiff. Not triumphant, stunned. The guards exchange glances, understanding dawning that this moment was never about protection. It was about confrontation. He shakes his head rapidly, tears collecting but refusing to fall. No, that's not. He wouldn't say that about me publicly. He loves me." Judy lowers the page slightly. "This letter is not public, but it is honest." He looks shattered, not angry, not defiant, just broken. Judy resumes reading, her voice gentler but no less firm. "If he shows arrogance, it is because I rewarded it. If he shows cruelty, it is because I allowed him to avoid repair. And if he feels untouchable, it is because I made him so." The words echo like confession and indictment all in one. Judy stops again, letting the weight of them settle into the walls. The mayor's son stares ahead without blinking, his breathing shallow and uneven. His entire identity, built on power, protection, and privilege, is unraveling in front of an audience that once feared him. Judge Judy folds the letter gently, her voice quieter than before. "Your father is not condemning you. He is admitting his part in shaping who you've become." He finally whispers, voice breaking, "So, he sent me here to be punished?" Judy shakes her head slowly. "No. He sent you here to be seen." He looks confused, lost, like a child who wandered too far and suddenly realizes there is no one left to guide him home. "What does that even mean?" "It means," Judy says, leaning forward, "your father knows that as long as he shields you, you will never stop hurting people, including yourself." His composure collapses. A small, choked sound escapes him, the first sound of genuine emotion he's made all day. Now Judy places the folded letter carefully beside her notes. "We have more to discuss," she says softly but firmly, "and what comes next will test your understanding of truth and the cost of running from it." He nods slowly, defeated, not because he accepts guilt, but because, for the first time, he fears the truth more than judgment. And the courtroom prepares for the revelation that will change everything that came before it. The courtroom feels colder now, not from the air, but from the truth settling inside it. Judge Judy folds the mayor's letter with deliberate care, the paper crisp between her fingers. Every eye is on her. Every breath in the room feels held. But the mayor's son, he looks like a man staring at the ruins of a kingdom he thought could never fall. The letter did not just sting him, it exposed him. Judy straightens. "We're going to continue," she says quietly, "because this case is no longer simply about the incident. It is about patterns, behavior, and the truth your father has attempted, unsuccessfully, to disguise." He runs a trembling hand through his hair. "Why are you doing this to me?" he whispers, his voice thin and cracking. The arrogance he once carried like a shield is gone, replaced with naked confusion. Why would he want you to see that?" "Because," Judy answers, "your father knows something you have refused to understand." She opens a new document, the internal logs from the mayor's office. A low hum passes through the audience, like everyone can feel something heavy about to drop. Not a twist of evidence, a twist of meaning. "Let's look at the messages from the morning of the incident," she says. Her finger traces the printed lines. "You were out drinking the night before. You ignored your scheduled appearance with one of your father's donors. You sent threatening messages to two different people. He inhales sharply. I was upset. You don't know the context. Judy lifts her gaze. Oh, I know the context. The context is you believed someone else would fix the consequences. He opens his mouth, but the words never arrive. He closes it again, defeated. Judy sets the logs aside. Then she gestures to the guard who blinked, the one who first cracked the shield of silence. Sir, please stand. He steps out again, slower this time, as though carrying the weight of everything he didn't say for years. Earlier, Judy says, you stated that you were told to block exits and intimidate the plaintiff. The guard nods, shame coloring his features. Yes, Your Honor. Whose instruction was that? The guard breathes in. His. He nods toward the mayor's son. Always his, not his father's, not the staff's. It always came from him directly. The mayor's son jerks back as though struck. That's not true. You were assigned to me. We were assigned to protect you. The guard interrupts, voice trembling but resolute. But we were also expected to clean up after you. Another guard steps forward, the second one who had spoken earlier. He lifts his chin. It wasn't protection, he says. It was containment. A ripple of stunned shock rolls through the audience. Judge Judy leans in. Explain. The guard sighs, voice heavy with years of buried truth. He told us to stay close because he knew he'd start something. He always did. We weren't protecting him from anyone. We were protecting others from him. The mayor's son shakes his head violently. You're lying. You're all lying. Dad would never. Judy interjects with a calm so cold it silences him instantly. Your father knew you were a liability. His face collapses, not in anger, but in grief. A grief so raw it tears right through the mask he has worn all morning. No, he whispers. He promised he'd handle everything. Judy nods slowly. Yes, he handled things for years, but handling Mr. Hartwell is not the same as helping. The plaintiff watches him with a new expression, not sympathy, not forgiveness, but understanding. Understanding that the man who terrorized her was not just powerful. He was broken beneath the weight of unearned privilege and unchallenged behavior. Judy opens the final page of the letter, a short line handwritten at the bottom. She reads it aloud. Please, Your Honor, if he learns anything today, let it be that truth is not an enemy he can outrun. The mayor's son closes his eyes as the words land, shoulders collapsing inward entirely. He looks younger suddenly, not 20-something, not arrogant, but small. A boy who grew into a man without growing any accountability. Judy sets the papers down and speaks softly. Your father did not send these documents to destroy you. He sent them because he finally realized that protecting you was hurting you more. He lifts his head, eyes red, breathing uneven. So, he sent me here to lose? Judy shakes her head gently. No. He sent you here to change. The courtroom falls still again, not from tension this time, but from the weight of a truth that reframes everything that came before. Judy closes the folder and says, And now that we understand who protected you and why, it is time to face what you actually did to the plaintiff. The mayor's son looks up, defeated, bracing for a truth no one else can shield him from. The cameras do not blink. They do not look away. They catch everything, every tremble in his fingers, every wobble in his breath, every crack forming in the mask he walked in with. And for the first time, the mayor's son realizes he is no longer being watched. He is being seen. Judge Judy closes the file with a soft thud, not dramatic, but final in a way that makes the young man flinch. Her expression remains calm, but the calm is the kind that comes after a storm has stripped away everything false. Now, she says, her tone measured, we return to the incident itself, the one that brought the plaintiff here today. He drags a shaky hand down his face. I told you, he mutters, voice hoarse. I didn't mean for any of that to happen. Judy lifts her eyes, steady, unblinking. You meant every action you took that day. What you did not mean was to be held accountable for it. The line slices him open. Something inside him buckles. His breathing grows loud enough the microphones catch it, uneven, shallow, desperate. The swagger that carried him into the courtroom has fully evaporated, leaving behind someone who looks lost, cornered, and painfully human. The plaintiff watches him, hands clasped so tightly the tips of her fingers turn white, not out of fear this time, out of disbelief that she is witnessing the unraveling of a man who once wielded power like a weapon. Judy gestures toward her. "Ma'am, please describe again the moment he and his guards prevented you from leaving your own business." The plaintiff nods, stepping forward. "When the light stand broke," she says quietly, "I asked him to step aside so I could get the broom. Instead," her voice trembles, but she forces herself to continue, "he blocked the doorway with his body, and the guards formed a wall behind him. I couldn't move. I felt trapped." The mayor's son winces, head lowering as though the memory physically wounds him. "I didn't realize—" "Stop," Judy says sharply. "You realized. You just didn't think it mattered." His shoulders collapse inward. A small, broken whisper escapes him. I thought she was exaggerating." The courtroom reacts, a soft wave of disbelief, not because of what he said, but because of the way he said it. Gone is the arrogance, gone is the mockery. What remains is a boy facing the truth without the luxury of excuses. Judy leans back, studying him. "You instructed your guards to make her feel small." He squeezes his eyes shut, jaw trembling. "Yes." The admission is barely audible. "But I didn't think it would matter this much." "It mattered to her," Judy fires back, "and it matters to this court." The cameras zoom closer, a tight frame around his face as the emotional dam finally begins to give. His mouth quivers, his hands shake, his chest rises and falls in jagged, uneven motions. The guards stand rigidly behind him, but their expressions are different now. No loyalty, just discomfort, pity even, because they are watching a man crumble who believed he was unbreakable. The plaintiff wipes a tear from her cheek, her voice softening as she speaks again. "You laughed," she whispers. "When I begged you to step aside, you laughed at me." His face contorts, pain, shame, regret tangled together in a raw, messy expression. "I'm sorry," he murmurs, barely above breath. I'm actually sorry. I wasn't then, but I am now." The apology hangs in the air, fragile, imperfect, too late to undo anything but real enough to shift the room. Judge Judy studies him with a mixture of sternness and something deeper, something almost human. "Mr. Hartwell," she says, "remorse means nothing until it faces consequence." He nods slowly, tears gathering but not falling. "I know." Judy closes her notebook. The gesture is quiet, but it feels like the world is holding its breath. "Good," she says, "because what happens next will define you far more than your last name ever has." He looks up, not with anger, not with entitlement, but with the fragile bravery of someone who finally understands there is nowhere left to hide. Judy folds her hands and says, "Now let's talk about the damage, not just what you broke in her studio, but what you broke in her life." And the cameras capture every second of his collapse. The emotional collapse still lingers in the air when Judge Judy shifts the entire courtroom's focus, not to politics, not to the mayor, not even to the guards, but to the woman who started all of this by refusing to stay silent. She turns toward the plaintiff with a gentleness rarely seen in this courtroom. "Ma'am," she says, "tell me again what his actions cost you, not emotionally, materially, tangibly." The plaintiff takes a slow breath. She steps forward, the same battered folder in her hands, though now she holds it not like a shield, but like evidence ready to be honored. "My lens," she begins, voice steady. "The one he knocked over was a $1,900 portrait lens. I'd saved for it for almost a year." The mayor's son winces, guilt twisting across his face. The plaintiff continues. "When it shattered, the job I was working on that day had to be canceled. I had to refund the client. I lost another booking because I didn't have backup equipment." She flips to another page. "The studio floor was damaged when one of the guards stepped backward onto a display. That cost $725 to repair." The numbers hit harder than accusations ever could, because arrogance sounds different when translated into dollars, hours, and survival. Judge Judy nods. And how long did it take to recover from the interruption to your business? The plaintiff's voice cracks, not from fear, but from the exhaustion of remembering. 3 weeks. I lost almost a month of income because of one afternoon of him, treating my studio like a playground. The mayor's son lowers his gaze. His fingers rub anxiously at the rim of his chair, as if he's trying to erase himself from the scene. Judy turns her attention to him. You didn't just break property, she says. You broke momentum. You broke income. You broke trust in a place where she should have felt safe. He nods weakly, tears pooling again. I didn't think it would spiral like that. I didn't think anything mattered that much. That, Judy says sharply, is exactly the problem. The plaintiff wipes her eyes and adds one final detail, quiet, devastating. I almost closed. One more hit like that and my studio wouldn't exist today. That line lands like a verdict before the verdict. Judge Judy looks at the mayor's son with piercing clarity. You didn't just cost her money, you nearly cost her her livelihood. And that, she says, is why the ruling must reflect far more than broken glass. The courtroom feels different now, charged, electric, humming with the unmistakable awareness that what Judge Judy is about to say will echo far beyond these walls. This is no longer just a case. It is the moment a powerful family's carefully protected reputation meets accountability head-on. Judge Judy sits straighter, folding her hands atop the bench. Mr. Hartwell, she begins, we have gone through your actions, the plaintiff's losses, your guard's testimony, and your father's letter. All of it leads to one unavoidable conclusion. The mayor's son swallows, throat tight, shoulders slumped. He already knows, instinctively, that the blow coming is not aimed solely at him, but at the political pedestal he was raised upon. Judy continues, you walked into a small business and treated it as disposable. You used intimidation as entertainment. You employed guards, city-paid guards, to exaggerate your authority and silence someone who dared challenge you. Every word lands like a hammer. The guards behind him lower their eyes. The plaintiff presses a trembling hand against her chest. The audience holds its breath. And worst of all, Judy adds, you did all of this believing your father's office would erase the consequences, just as it has so many times before. The son closes his eyes. That truth hurts more than anything in the evidence pile. Judy leans forward, voice sharp enough to carve through the tension. This court does not bend for titles, it does not kneel for family names, and it does not suppress justice to shelter political careers. The courtroom murmurs, soft, stunned, reverent. She lifts her gavel slightly, not high, but with purpose. What you did goes beyond civil misconduct. It enters the realm of abuse of power, misuse of city resources, and coordinated intimidation. The mayor's son's breathing quickens. My father didn't know everything. He knew enough, Judy says, and I intend to ensure the appropriate oversight bodies know as well. Gasps scatter through the room. Even the cameras seem to freeze. Judy continues, unwavering. I will be forwarding the full record of today's hearing, including witness testimony, internal logs, and your father's letter to the Ethics Commission and all relevant supervisory agencies. That sentence doesn't just hit him. It shatters him, his father's entire political career, his spotless public image, the illusion of a perfect family, all put in jeopardy by the very son he tried to shield. Judge Judy lowers the gavel, letting her words settle like dust after a demolition. This verdict is not just about you, Mr. Hartwell, she says quietly. It is about every person who has ever believed that power is protection. She raises the gavel fully now. And before I strike this bench, there is one final consequence you must hear. The gavel hovers in the air, suspended in a moment so silent it feels sacred. The mayor's son sits motionless, eyes glassy, chest rising in shaky, uneven breaths. The arrogance he wore like armor is gone. What remains is a young man stripped down to truth, fragile, humbled, exposed. Judge Judy speaks with a steadiness that feels like closure itself. This court finds in favor of the plaintiff, You will pay full restitution for all damages, as well as additional compensation for intimidation and emotional distress. He nods, not in defiance, not in reluctance, but in acceptance. I understand, he whispers, but Judy isn't finished. You will also deliver a formal apology, direct, sincere, and on record, not for your father, not for the cameras, for her. The plaintiff's breath catches as he turns toward her, voice cracking with the weight of accountability he's never carried before. I'm sorry, he says, not smooth, not polished, real. Judy delivers the final blow, not cruel, but necessary. This entire case, including your father's correspondence, will be forwarded to the Ethics Commission. Let this be the day your actions finally belong to you. And as the gavel falls, the lesson becomes undeniable. Arrogance always collapses when confronted by truth.